Welcome to The Explainer. So glad you're joining me today. Let's just dive right in, shall we? We're constantly hearing about how AI is completely transforming the world. But today, we're taking a peek behind the curtain. We're going to focus on demystifying this hidden crisis going on in corporate AI adoption. Basically, we're doing an organizational autopsy. We want to figure out exactly why so many of these high-profile AI projects are just quietly crashing and burning. And, much more importantly, how you can make sure yours doesn't end up on the cutting room floor.
So this brings us to a pretty massive question. Is the AI revolution actually failing? Every single day we're bombarded with headlines about this AI gold rush. Companies are literally pouring millions into this tech, right? Rushing to get products out the door. But behind the scenes, away from all those flashy PR announcements and the polished demos, the tech industry is actually stumbling.
Check this out. A really comprehensive report from the RAND Corporation just revealed a staggering statistic. 80% of AI projects fail. Just let that sink in for a second. 8 out of 10 projects do not achieve their goals. That's absolutely mind-blowing, especially when you realize it's literally twice the failure rate of your traditional non-AI tech projects. No way, right?
And honestly, the technical side, that's not the only place things are breaking down. There was this recent UC Berkeley study that looked at the folks actually building these tools, specifically product managers using generative AI. And they found another shocking number. 77% of these product managers report widespread uncertainty about what responsibility actually even means when using this tech. So they're out there building the future, but a massive majority basically have no idea what the guardrails are even supposed to look like.
So consider today's explainer your survival guide. We're going to cover 1. The AI reality check, 2. Leadership and strategy traps, 3. The dirty data problem, 4. The responsibility void, and finally, number 5, a real blueprint for AI success. Let's get to it. Starting off with Section 1, the AI reality check.
So this RAND report interviewed 65 highly experienced data scientists and engineers from all over the industry to dig into the root causes of these massive failures. And what they found? It wasn't that the algorithms were broken, not at all. They found systemic organizational failures. Stakeholders miscommunicating the core problem, companies just entirely lacking the right data, and people getting way too focused on using the quote-unquote latest and greatest technology instead of actually solving real human problems. So where do these systemic issues even start?
Well, that brings us to Section 2, Leadership and Strategy Traps. The absolutely crucial point here is this massive disconnect between executive expectation and technical reality. See, the expectation from a lot of leaders is that AI is just this magic wand. They kind of treat it like a buzzword-compliant parlor trick that's just going to automate away any difficult task overnight. But the reality? AI is probabilistic. It involves randomness. It involves uncertainty. It's definitely not a rigid rulebook, and it actually requires really complex, enduring business problems to solve. You simply can't just sprinkle a little AI on a broken business process and expect it to magically fix the whole shebang.
And this leads directly to what I call a fatal time disconnect. Because leaders view AI as this magic wand, they're expecting results in weeks. But the engineers, they know that AI models require months of just painstaking data curation to even get off the ground. So what happens? Well, impatient leadership ends up killing perfectly viable AI projects entirely too early. They pivot to a new priority or some flashy new tool before the models have ever really had a chance to learn, let alone demonstrate real business results. But hey, it's not just the executives making mistakes. Let's shift gears from the top-down leadership failures to the bottom-up technical hurdles happening right there on the engineering floor.
Which brings us to Section 3, the dirty data problem.
I honestly absolutely love this vivid quote from one of the engineers interviewed in that RAND report. They said, 80% of AI is the dirty work of data engineering. It hits the nail right on the head. When we think of AI, we tend to picture glamorous algorithm tuning, right? Futuristic neural networks. But the truth is, most AI work is actually incredibly tedious, totally underappreciated data cleaning. And if you don't have good people doing this boring work, their mistakes will literally poison the algorithms.
Down on the engineering floor, technical staff often get completely distracted chasing shiny new tech instead of, actually solving core problems. Compounding all of this, the data engineers who are doing the crucial prep work, they're often treated as mere plumbers, which, as you can guess, leads to really high turnover. So when you combine that with AI models being trained on unbalanced legacy data by scientists who completely lack real-world domain context, you've basically got a perfect recipe for failure. All right, so we've seen the data and the leadership failures. Now we've got to look at the ethical failures.
pulling from that UC Berkeley study on generative AI.
Moving on to Section 4, the responsibility void.
The UC Berkeley researchers identified a massive roadblock in corporate AI adoption, and it's actually a psychological one. It's called the diffusion of responsibility. This is basically a phenomenon where ethical accountability just gets passed around, which eventually leads to total inaction. Why does this happen? Well, the product managers assume the compliance and legal teams are handling all the AI risks, while the compliance teams are over there assuming the product managers are building those ethical guardrails directly into the product. So because everyone assumes somebody else is handling it, absolutely no one does.
And this creates a truly terrifying environment. One product manager in the Berkeley study dropped this incredibly powerful, memorable metaphor about moving way too fast with opaque AI models. They said, "It's like we're spraying asbestos in all of our attics." Seriously, we don't fully understand the side effects, we lack transparency from the makers of this technology, and we honestly won't feel the full effect of these unseen dangers until the harm has already happened.
So why on earth are they spraying the asbestos in the first place? Well, the survey reveals that a staggering 81% of respondents lack clear organizational incentives to use AI responsibly. Think about that. Only 19% actually have incentives to do the right thing. When you're heavily rewarded for traditional speed to market, shipping products as fast as humanly possible, and you're not rewarded for ethical decision-making, the organization's priorities become dangerously misaligned. Okay, we've done the autopsy, we've identified the failure points. Now let's pivot from diagnosing those organizational failures to actually prescribing the cure.
Let's jump into our final section, Section 5, Blueprint for AI Success. To fix all this, the RAND report urges a pretty major shift. First, leaders absolutely must bridge the gap so tech teams actually understand the business context. Then, they need to commit to solving enduring problems for at least a year. Just stop chasing buzzwords and focus entirely on the problem at hand, And finally, they need to heavily invest in that upfront, unglamorous data infrastructure, while finally accepting that AI is just a tool with limits, not some sort of magic wand.
Now, on the ethical side, the Berkeley study found a brilliant way to empower product managers even when leadership provides zero guidance. They call them responsibility micro-moments. These are just small, low-risk actions you can take daily. We're talking things like establishing firm standards to protect customer data, instituting team-wide reviews for bias, and performing small-scale tests before a massive launch. You really don't need a corporate mandate to just do the right thing in your day-to-day workflow.
Which brings us to our final takeaway today. I want you to look closely at your own organization, maybe at your own specific projects. Are you aligning your leadership, your data engineers, and your ethical standards to build a real AI solution? Or are you ignoring the plumbing, moving way too fast, and simply chasing an AI illusion? It takes time, patience, and doing the dirty work to make AI truly succeed. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer today. Keep asking those tough questions, and I'll catch you next time.